not me. But I am always prone to ask fundamental questions of myself. So when my alarm clock went off very early this morning, as it has done every morning this week, I needed to ask myself why I was here. Maybe you should ask yourself at this point why you're here too. It's always good to establish these basic things. Once you ponder that personally, I'll tell you why I'm here. I'm here because I fear that we live in a world where science is not influencing evidence-based decision-making, and it frightens me. I'm here because we live in a world where we've managed to elect decision-makers who deny that we're having an influence on our climate. I'm here because in this country we have decision-makers who continue to persecute badgers in our countryside when all of the established science says it's not the best way to combat bovine tuberculosis. I want these people to make decisions based on truth, because for me, science is the art of understanding truth and beauty. And what influences and fuels our scientists is that beauty. I'm no longer a scientist. My job now is to communicate science to a wider audience, and I seek to do so with passion and enthusiasm and due diligence. I am merely a vector between some of you who get up every day and give your time and energy and integrity to advance knowledge. And it's a privilege for me to act as that vector, because for me, learning from you, learning from your expertise, allows me to better shape my thinking, my awareness, and my life. And that's what I'm sure all of us want to do personally, but we want other people to do that on our behalves when it comes to shaping our world. And I'm very pleased to say that we're not alone today, because across the world there are no less than 500 other science marches taking place in 35 countries. This will be the largest ever turnout for science this planet has ever seen in its history. What a privilege again to be able to take part in that. A privilege on one account, but as we all know, a necessity on another. And if you allow me just a moment's dalliance in romance, I just hope that Galileo, Newton, Darwin, Wallace, Curie, Faraday, all of them would be proud of us today for standing up for their legacy. Equally, standing up for the legacy of all the scientists who are here and out there, not yet established in that Hall of Fame, who are striving hard to meet the same criteria of excellence. These people deserve our support. And of course, it's no coincidence that we're taking this science march to the streets of Bristol on Earth Day, where more than 1 billion people across this planet will be involved in this awareness. And this year, the underlying principle of Earth Day is environmental and climate literacy. Education is the foundation of progress, it says on their website. We need to inspire, empower, and imbue everyone with the knowledge to initiate action to protect the environment. Now, I'm no astrophysicist. You've got Packham instead of Cox this morning. But there's a theory that says that this planet could be the only planet with life of our sort and everything else on it. And if there isn't another, then we've got to take care of this one. We can't get off, so we've got to get on with looking after it. And of course, we need science to support that. In these days of bullying, mischief, and fake news, we have to be careful. We've got to make sure that we maintain our integrity, because every scientist out here and there is under a microscope or magnifying glass. We know that there are more retractions of scientific papers taking place in the UK than ever before. We know that we have a few black spots in our recent past. The information about the MMR vaccine and its relationship to autism has caused us no end of pain. So we have to make sure that we maintain that integrity, because there are plenty of people out there just hovering like vultures with just as keen eyesight, peering down, waiting for us to make one little slip, which they will exaggerate. They will use to abuse us. So for scientists out here this morning, one little plea, and I'm sure that it doesn't need to be made, but I'm as ever cautious. Please bear in mind that it's not only your reputation that's at stake when it comes to telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth. It's also our reputation, because we stand for all science this morning, whatever branch it happens to be. The people that seek to do this are not to be trusted, but we are there living alongside them. And as a consequence of that, we need to make sure that all of our practices are rigorous and that we maintain standards. So, as an aside, I can tell you that this week I've signed a letter in conjunction with a number of others, the eminent primatologist Jane Goodall and many more, which has asked to look more seriously and independently and to motivate a debate about the use of animals in experimentation, to make sure that that experimentation can only take place if there's a clear benefit and an undisputed inability to use any other means when it comes to making sure that they are an accurate way of looking at human responses in terms of drugs and clinical research. And what's motivated this letter is that there's been an expansion, or there will be an expansion, in the breeding of dogs in the UK. And we believe that the breeding of these beagles is something that we shouldn't continue to support, because there are viable alternatives in terms of research. This is just one example where we have to be constantly critical of our methods to make sure that we are beyond reproach, beyond criticism, and that we can always stand with a firm foundation of truth behind us. Because if we've got that, we can stand confident. And we can stand confident in the face of intimidation, and we can make progress because we know that we have the right to win. And that we need to be assured of. Because sometimes, and I spoke to a young woman this morning, she said that she'd had a tough time in the last few months, a tough time staying true, believing that we can actually win out, that we can change people's mind, and we can make creative, positive progress. And I know that a lot of people might feel sometimes that we're going backwards rather than forwards, that we might have to run to stay in the same place, and that takes energy, and you might see it as wasted energy. But the mantra that I live by is that winning is not giving up. And of course, the indication is, as I stand here looking at you lot, is that none of you are giving up anything more than your time to come and stand united this morning for what you believe in. So thank you very much for coming. It's great to be in Bristol. It's always been a centre of scientific excellence. It's a previous green capital, as you know. There are academic institutions here, the universities, which are fantastic. It's a hub, the world-famous hub for wildlife filmmaking, which I'm very lucky to sometimes play a part in. This event has been officially endorsed by the University of Bristol. It's locally supported by, the wind, Bristol and Bath Science Park, Bristol and Bath Science Association, the Women's Tech Hub Bristol, Bristol Green Capital, the Bristol Astronomical Society, and the Science Incubation Unit Incubator, they're not sitting on eggs, Incubator Unit DX. And the idea, of course, is to bring people of all ages and sexes, races and creeds together to stand up for what we believe in. Now, before I introduce the other speakers who are proper scientists or educators, not people like myself, I've just got to introduce the banner competition. Now, the banner competition is to judge the best banner. There are two categories, adult and child. I don't know where the line's drawn. Should we make it 16 or 18 or... Actually, I don't think I was an adult until I was about 34. So let's be flexible. Well, maybe I'm not now. Let's be flexible with that. What we'd like you to do is to photograph your banners, tweet them out using the @sciencemarch BRS tag, and the hashtags which are on the screen behind me. We'll also photograph them, and the winners of the best banner competition will win family tickets to Bristol for them, their family, any related relatives that you can prove using birth certificates that are brought at the time. If you've got an extended family, it could be a good day out. So let's hope you've made a good banner. Anyway, enough. I'm going to introduce our first of four speakers this morning. And it's very pertinent that it's Anna Starkey, who's the creative director of Bristol. She's responsible for the creative input and challenging existing models of engagement and learning to ensure the Bristol continues to develop its vision of making science accessible to all. Can't think of anything finer than that, personally. She's a wealth of creative and scientific experiments. She was a series producer at the BBC. She was BAFTA nominated, so there's envy in my camp for that. And she also had an award-winning series, My Mad Fat Diary. She dreamt of being an astronaut. Who didn't, Anna? I grew up through the space program. I remember Armstrong putting his foot on the moon, and what one of us didn't want to follow in those footsteps. But she's very happy to be joining the dots in ideas and science and the arts, and the thing that for her makes her work feel that it's a good way of leading a life rather than just progressing in a job. So please put your hands together for Anna.